myself. I'm Gery, VP of Communications with EF Hutton and the HUTN group, and we're starting our roundtable discussion. As you see, the table is neither here nor round. So we're just going to have our speakers talk a little bit. We're going to ask them a few questions. We're going to give you all in the audience an opportunity to ask a question here in a little bit. So first thing we're going to do is just go down the row here and have them reintroduce themselves, because a couple of them I don't think you've heard from yet. So I'll start with Joyce. There's that.
Thank you. I'm Joyce, Chilton, Springfield City Commissioner, and what I do, about 80% of my job is to navigate our citizens to the various services, and on top of that, appropriations and policies and rules. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Charlie Winburn, presently a member of the board of EF Hutton. I also have a consulting group called Leadership Concepts. So if you give us a concept, we will provide the leadership to it. And most recently, I just turned out on Cincinnati City Council. I was a member of Cincinnati City Council for 8 years, my second go-round, the first go-round, 7 years. And then I asked them to put me over the money. So I was the chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee for 4 years. We had an accumulated budget of over $5 billion. We had assets of over $50 billion, and I had the opportunity to really learn and grow on how to manage the city money. I'll say this and I'll stop. One of the things when they gave me the chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee, the mayor nominated me, it was unanimous confirmation by the entire city council. So they said, let's give Charlie Winburn the chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee, because he's a Republican and we want him to fail. And we already know that we have $100 million of unstructurally balanced debt, and we have a pension system that is on the verge of bankruptcy. So I just want to share it to you all, after the end of 4 years, guess what? We cleared up all the debt, zero debt. So we left Cincinnati City Council, the city of Cincinnati, with a structurally balanced budget, and now we have a solvent retirement system as a result of our leadership. So I'm glad that they gave me an opportunity to fail, and not only did we didn't fail, but we succeeded, and together we left out with a solid city now, the city of Cincinnati.
My name is Zachary, and I'm an attorney with the law firm of Cass, Detenius, and Hollister. I counsel businesses of all shapes and sizes with respect to data governance programs, with respect to structuring privacy policies, terms and conditions, and I also work with them with regulated data to the extent that they have protected health information, financial information that's regulated by different governmental entities. I help them navigate through that patchwork and help to make sure they're compliant with the different laws and regulations that govern them. I'm also a professor at Wright State University, where I teach a course on legal aspects of cybersecurity.
Very good. Let's hear it for our panelists today. Thanks for your help. So they've come to help us with this discussion we've got going on all day about user rights. You've heard a little bit about it. You heard Chris Daniel speak about it earlier today. You'll hear Martin Luther King speak about it a little bit later. And then also just the speakers that we've had today talking about the various ways that those things impacted their careers, their lives, and their constituents, whoever they are. So the first question out of the gate is, with regard to user rights, you all have this great flyer that we made up, and this is the Declaration of User Independence, and it's followed up by our preamble on the back of this. This is all in your pamphlet. Sorry. So it's kind of a neat way to say, you know what, we own our data. You don't have the right to use it without telling us why and how and compensating for that. And so I'm going to put it to our panel here. Who do you believe really owns our information? When we hand that over to Facebook or one of the others, talk a little bit about who owns that information and why we should have it back. What is your opinion on that? Zach, why don't you start since you've got the mic?
Sure. Well, I think it kind of harkens back to a question I'm asked quite frequently, especially amongst my students at the collegiate level, and it's this question of whether or not privacy is dead. And there's this feeling, this overwhelming feeling that, yeah, privacy no longer exists. And I think instead, it's just a different flavor. I think it's a different conception of what privacy is now than what it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So when you engage with a website, that's your data that you have. You have ownership of it. And you have to make choices as to whether or not you want that information shared with third parties, which third parties, so on and so forth. The problem is that not every business is living up to their end of the bargain. They'll disclose, or at least they should be disclosing what they do with your data, how they collect it, how they use it, how they share it through their terms and services. But the problem exists when they're not fulfilling those obligations. But I think you're starting to see more movement in giving you, the user, power over your information back. And specifically, you're seeing that within the European Union. Just last month, the General Data Protection Regulation went into effect, which gives data subjects enumerated rights as to what they can do with their data and with businesses and websites that are processing their data. They have a right to be forgotten, to have any information that business has on them erased and get a record showing exactly how that occurred, or to pick and choose exactly how they want that information processed. So I think what you're starting to see is more of a cultural attitude towards the user being in control of their data, and you're starting to see bit by bit more regulations come down forcing businesses to allow that choice to be given back to the user to have better control over that data and how it's used and how it's shared.
So the question is, do we really own our data, or who is it that actually owns it? Once we sign that terms and conditions and hit that button and say send, do we still own our data? Do we have a right to it?
Yes, well, first of all, it's an excellent question. I think in theory, we own it, in theory. And I think when you read the Bill of Rights, like you just read there, that's theoretical. But really, in practice, we're not. It's like theory versus practice. And that's why we need companies like Hutton, who will model the way, and that will change that dynamics. Like, it's called Model the Way, Inspire Shared Vision, Challenge the Process. That's why this meeting here today on user rights is challenging the process. And we got to encourage the heart of the user to get back in control of their life. And that's the alternative. The alternative, I have to say that, y'all should have invited me as a board member of the board. Hutton is the alternative. Because you can decide that if you want to continue with the other group and not get paid for your content and your photos, or if you're interested in at least creating a savings plan long term.
Right.
So I kind of wrote this early this morning about 1 o'clock. I said there must be a power shift in social media. The power must be given to the user of social media and take away the control from this small monopoly of corporate people. So we have this a small group of people that's controlling the social media industry of the country and the world, and the power must be returned to the people. The power must be given back to the user. In conclusion, remember I said theoretically we own it. I believe we do from a theoretical standpoint, but in practice we don't. Matter of fact, a small group of corporate people right now control your information. They're asking you to sign up, get free information, a free registration, and then they decide what you're going to see. They're going to decide, and then they're saying, not only we're going to waste your time, your talent, and your skills, we're not going to pay you.
Right.
We're not going to pay you for your content.
But where does their money go then?
Well, their money goes back to the shareholders, back to the owners of the company. And that's why Hutton is the alternative, that you have an opportunity to get paid for your labor. Even the Bible says a labor is worth their hire. Everybody in here, if you got a job, hopefully you're not doing it free. If you are, come and work for me. And then we can create the same.
Hang on, I gotta get a business card to give to him. Hold on,
So that's right. So yes, in theory, I believe we own it, but in practice, the corporate giants are saying, no, we want your data, we're going to tell you what you should focus on, and then we're going to discriminate against you when we don't want to deal with African Americans. We're going to only give you a certain message to that group, a certain message to the Hispanics. So we got
So they're even targeting the information unfairly.
They're even that, that's right. So, I believe E.F. Hutton is the alternative. I believe.
So when Mr. Winburn says E.F. Hutton, he's talking about Megalife.
That's right.
Specifically, it's a product of E.F.
Megalife.com.
Megalife.com, one more time.
Yeah, Megalife.com.
See how I do that? Isn't that great?
Look at the camera, Megalife.
There you go. This is sort of a question and a comment, and I'll let you guys kind of say what you'd like to about it. One of the things I've discovered, especially since working with E.F. Hutton and working on the Megalife project, is when the delete Facebook stuff happened, and Facebook got in trouble for all the things they were doing, everyone said, we're going to get off Facebook. But you know what happened? They didn't. Right? They really didn't. Lots of big names. You had Elon Musk, guys like that were dumping off of Facebook. Well, part of that is a PR thing, I think. That's from a PR standpoint. That's what I think it was. What do you think we need to do in order to get people more aware of this? We have folks in the political ring here. We have legal opinions here. How can we engage the public to help them understand that this is a problem and how to get them to care about it? Because it seemed like even with all of Cambridge Analytica and all that, it still didn't feel like anybody cared. What do you say? What do you say to them? You want to start, Zach? You got the mic.
Yeah, sure. I think a big part of it is awareness and education. That's where everything starts.
And that's at efhutton.com.
Right, exactly. And it's bringing these concepts into the schools, and we're starting to see more and more where kids are learning how to code, kids are learning more and more about the ramifications of technology. We need to bring in that appreciation earlier and earlier about what it means to try and maintain privacy in the 21st century.
So you're talking about ethics education early on, digital ethics.
Yeah,
right?
That's a big part of it, because right now, the lack of care and the lack of attention isn't remedied until it happens to you. Until you're the victim of revenge porn, or you're the victim of cyber exploitation.
Have any of you,
identity theft.
and that's exactly good. Have any of you ever been a victim of identity theft? Had your credit card stolen, anything like that? A few people. That's a big number out of a small crowd. That's amazing. Go ahead. Yeah,
absolutely. And so it's starting there, and then once you can get that grassroots support, once you can get more of us to reach out to our congressmen, reach out to the legislature, you're going to see more of an initiative to start passing laws. When it comes to privacy, when it comes to data ownership, this is a bipartisan issue. This isn't a left, this isn't a right issue, and that's why you're seeing it in the European Union in particular, where they're educating their members and their citizens about their rights for data ownership. And that's why when I write a privacy policy for a company that does business in the EU, it's not 12 pages, single-spaced, size 10 font. It's 6 pages, double-spaced, and there's options to where if you want to stop that company from processing your data, this is where you go. If you want to have all of your data erased, this is where you go. So you're starting to see a little bit more of that momentum, but it has to start early on. It has to have public support, and then I think you turn to the laws in the legislature.
Mr. Winburn?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. The reason why I think that was not a really major reaction, I think people are not paying attention. Most of the 80% of the people are busy, they're not paying attention. And you ask most of the individuals, did they hear about the scandal? They probably 8 out of 10.
They may simply have not known about it.
That's right.
Or thought it didn't affect them.
Very much so.
Okay.
But what I like about what is happening here is that this user conference is really the genesis, is paving the way. I just don't see just a small group of people here today. I see a whole revolution of folk starting the genesis of something great. So we need to put on, maybe we need to do it E.F. Hutton. We need to come up with a 3-year strategic plan, 4 pages, and how we're going to map the whole entire country and educate them about this. Because once people are educated about it, guess what's going to happen? They're going to be mad when they discover that their information was compromised in one way or another. One of the things I've been reading this book you all called The Leadership Challenge. It's called The Leadership Challenge by Kuntz and Posner. The Leadership Challenge. And in the Leadership Challenge, it talks about there are 5 things, and I'll be brief. There are 5 things that we must do, even with our users conference, even here at E.F. Hutton, even to address this issue. It says we must model the way, We got to inspire a shared vision among users. Here's the one I want to talk about just briefly, challenge the process. This is the it's called the 5 exemplary practices of outstanding leaders. It's model the way, inspire shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, and encourage to all. Let's talk about challenge the process. I believe it's got to start here. I believe a revolution is starting here in Springfield, Ohio. Since we're in on this now, we got to challenge the process. We got to develop a plan, even a marketing plan to get the word out. Because once the word is out there, people will be more engaged. So I think it's our responsibility. Because I don't hear anybody else talking about it.
Nobody's talking about it.
This is the first users conference that I've ever been at. So I believe we should take from here. Maybe this group should come together and say, let's put together a 5-year business plan, just make it 1-2 pages. We're going to map the whole United States of America out. Maybe we want to create a special website just to deal with this issue, to educate people. And maybe we should. Let's use Facebook. Let's go buy some time on Facebook and use their stuff to tell them about what we're trying to do to have more awareness about this issue.
In my eyes, as a politician, people are not going to care or pay attention unless it's their pockets.
They have to be injured first, right?
They have to be injured first.
Okay.
So the only way to make people hear before that is with education and knowledge, and try to get people to understand how it affects them.
Please, please.
The wonderful Vice Mayor, I really appreciate what she said. People have to be injured first. They have to be injured. Well, they are being injured. They're being injured that all of their information on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, they're not getting paid for it. And they're giving out all their content, all their information. They sign up with a free registration saying that everything's free. And then these Facebook and others turn around and sell their information for billions of dollars. They're being injured. And I think once we can awaken the millions of people in America that you are not getting paid for your content, your photos, your information, I think they're going to be angry about it. And it's our job is to get the word out. They have been injured, they just don't know it because they're not paying attention.
So that's very good. Give them a round of applause, please. That was really worthwhile. So the other piece of this too is we've got another question here for you. On this subject of the how to get the users to care, something that's really interesting about things, I noticed when Mark Zuckerberg went to Congress and the congressional hearing is berating him with questions, the one thing that really came out of that to me, and this is my personal take on it, they have no understanding of how social media operates as a business, or at least it didn't seem that way. So they're asking how they make money. Most people don't really know how social media makes money. They make money by advertising. When you have an ad on there from Amazon that comes up on your Facebook feed, it's probably because you like something similar, and then it comes up later. And then that algorithm goes back out and it grabs on another one, and it's programmed for that, so they can continue to sell ads. Billions of dollars worth of ads. And as Mr. Winburn said, that money goes into the pockets of the stockholders and the owners and all of that sort of stuff. What the difference to me, especially with Megalife, is that we're giving that money back to the user, and other platforms could do that too. They simply won't. So we at EF Hutton have a good model, I think, to start building on that, and I think talking about it now is really the way to really kick it. Do you think that the users of social media are being exploited? And if so, why? Well, we know that some of the reason people aren't mad about it is because they don't know what's happening, right? And I think we've established that. They don't understand that that's going on. So if they are being exploited, is this something the government is likely to do anything about?
You know, this morning, about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I kind of wrote this, I'm going to read it, and I want to take a lot of time. I said, and it's going to answer your question. It says, is there anyone in the world, the earth, or in the universe willing to step up and stand up for users' rights and users that share in the compensation of the social media? And I like the vice mayor here. You know, I used to be a part of government. And as a city council member, I would fight the administration all the time. I wasn't one of those that got along with them. I would fight them all the time with all my might, never stooping stooping to violence or hatred in the process. So government, I'm not for sure we can look to them. I think we should work with them as much as we can to try to get somewhere. But then I said, the answer is yes. Is there anybody in the world that can step up and take the leadership at EFHuttonMegaLife.com? Megalife.com. Megalife is a revolutionary approach to the social media issue. Think about it just for a moment. If the government is not going to listen to us, they're not going to listen to the users, then we must take the leadership. We must bring about the leadership role. That is our job. And then I went on to say, Megalife is different because you get paid for your online activities, like connecting with your friends and you're sharing your photos and searching the internet. You get paid for it. So what we are going to have to do is take the responsibility to get the word out there in our marketing that there is an alternative. And there's nothing wrong with being self-serving if we're helping people.
Well, right,
to get
and
where
it's
they gotta
definitely
go.
going to help in
Yes.
the long, because it's a long-term solution. We're not going to give you
Yes.
$5 today.
That's right.
It's you're establishing this long-term asset for yourself. But do you believe also, and I'm just going to parry off of that for a second before we go to Zach, do you believe also that we have, as an industry, because now we've stepped up, with Megalife, we've said, hey, we're part of this industry, we're here right beside you. Do you believe that as an industry, we have a responsibility to lead the way on this? Because as you suggested, Commissioner, we're not going to expect government to do that. We have to do it ourselves, educate the people, bring them along, teach them what this is all about and how it works, and help them to understand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense that we will be in the social media arena, the social network arena, but we just got to do it right. All we're saying is that we're going to do it right. I have an old saying by Zig Ziglar. He says that if you help enough other people in life to get what they want, enough other people will help you to get what you want. That's not happening right now with Facebook. They're helping to get all that they want for themselves.
Right.
What E.F. Hutton is saying is that we want to help you to get where you got to go in life, because we're not in subjection to the stockholders and equity owners of a company. We're here to serve you. So we'll take all of the advertising money, put it in a trust, and then give it back to all the users. So we are modeling the way. That is the leadership challenge. And that's what E.F. Hutton is all about, is about a leadership challenge.
Zach, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think it's about finding that balance, right? When it comes to our data, when it comes to personal privacy, a lot of it is about individual choices, the choices that we make as to where we want to give our data to. And just as we have to be more judicious in being better givers, I think the private industry, companies, have to be better takers. They have to think about the data that they're collecting, what they're doing with that data, and why they're doing it in the first place. So when I counsel companies, when I counsel clients as to their data governance programs, I ask them, what are you doing with the data that you collect, and why are you doing it? And oftentimes companies say, well, we don't know why we're collecting it, but we think it'll be valuable down the line. And I tell them, well, we need to reevaluate that, because one, the more data that you're collecting, the different types of data that you collect, the more liability exposure you put yourself out to. But two, if we look at, and I know I've been harping on the European Union quite a bit, but they're really stepping up as a leader when it comes to regulation of one's personal data. If we look to them as where the future is heading, there's only going to be more choice afforded to individuals about what they can do with their data, even if they've already given it out, how they can take it back, and how you can hold those companies' feet to the fire if they're not complying with that. And so I think a big part of it is we want to work with government, we want to work with private industry, but users and individuals also have to look at the choices they're making, and when they've been abused, or when a company does go against those terms and conditions, or they do violate a regulation, taking those actions that are afforded to individuals to try and get a remedy, whether it be through a private right of action, which some laws afford, or filing a complaint with the State Attorney General or the Federal Trade Commission. All of those are options to get the private companies to pay more attention and to take it more seriously.
Very good. Questions for our panel right now? No? We're okay? All right, if you think of one, please raise your hand. I got one more question for all of you, if you wouldn't mind. You know, we're talking about the E.F. Hutton Talks series is designed to start bringing up these questions. The next one we're going to be doing is on social capital. And social capital has to do with the value of the network of individuals that are involved. And it's kind of really kind of a complicated statement, so I won't go into it right now. You got to wait and come to the one in October, so make sure you do that. But the idea of social capital also spins around the idea of economic inclusion when it comes to social networking. So one of the things that we've been talking about at E.F. Hutton and with Megalife also is this concept that there is a level of money that's available to people that they're not getting their fair share of. And first, do they deserve a share of that money? Are you doing work when you're on social media? There's an argument that says yes. Do you deserve the share of money? And secondly, why doesn't the big company, I'm going to play devil's advocate, why doesn't the big company like Facebook deserve to make the billions of dollars for themselves when they're giving you something for free? Would you like to start? I was going to do that.
Well, first of all, what Facebook is giving you is not free. Because anytime you give up your information, you just paid for whatever it was that you got.
Yes, that's right.
And the next question is, you talked about, should people, no, you talked about the fact that should we get paid for being on Facebook and for giving up our information? I say you only get paid if you demand to get paid.
You know, nothing is free. Somebody has to pay for it. People say, well, you know, salvation is free. No, Jesus had to die for it. He had to die so you could have salvation. So nothing is really free. But I wrote this morning. I said that the massive social media companies are practicing economic discrimination against the user by taking their data without compensating them. It's a form of economic inequality. It's unfair. It's a form of Civil Rights Violations Act. It's a form of human rights violation. It's a disrespect for the user. And so if they're going to use your information, your name, your address, your phone number, your birthday is what we call added value. That is an added value. That is you. Your name is powerful. Your name, when somebody uses your name, that says a lot about your credibility. So they're taking your credibility, which is called added value, and they're taking your added value and selling it to advertisers. And advertisers, and then they make money and take your money and pay the shareholders. No, you definitely, every user should be involved in compensation. You should be paid for your credibility. You should be paid for your added value. You should be paid for your content and your data. And that's why I like E.F. Hutton, because it's the alternative. Megalife.com. It's Megalife.com, an opportunity for you to be compensated, and for you, an opportunity for you to be respected, an opportunity for you to be encouraged and to be treated as the real customer. And I believe Megalife.com will also help us to recognize that we are not just the customer or the user, but we are the shareholder. We share in the profits of the company. You may not sit on the board, but you share in the profits of the company by being compensated. So yes, everybody ought to be compensated. And that's my conclusion. Thank you. I didn't mean to preach.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I think this subject needs a little preaching. Don't you? What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I don't have too much to add, really. I think Joyce said it right, to where no one's going to pay you until you demand to be paid. And there's different aspects from which taking management of your data can come. It's either personal choice, it's either through the legislature, or it's through the market. And so by introducing a disruptor into the social media field, one that's taking a different approach to the value of your data.
That would be Megalife.com.
It would. You know, it's going to be kind of a test to see the extent to which users do value their data, and if they want to, if they engage with a service that effectively pays them back, you're going to see, I think, more and more momentum on that edge. It's just going to be one of those things where I think you're seeing the seeds now, and it's exciting to see where it goes and see what happens.
Did you all know that there was an alternative to Facebook? So if you didn't know and you're part of this, you're starting to see it isn't just about, we're talking about MegaLife because it's our product, but there are alternatives to letting your data go, and you should be outraged. I mean, it's hard to, you can't make people be mad about stuff, right? That's hard. Like you said, you gotta tick them off first, or they have to be injured in some fashion. And I saw a question somewhere. Was that you, sir?
I have to say, in the morning, I was very skeptical because I was having a hard time buying into the thing about, oh, my rights have been violated because I traded something I had for something I wanted. You know, I go onto the internet to find information, and when that information, I just want something. When that information comes back to me, I've gained from that, and if it's worth the trade for me to trade my information for the information they're giving to me, I'll make that trade. If it's not a fair trade, I'm not going to make that trade. I won't participate in things like that. But now, on the second half of things here, I'm seeing this from a whole different angle that, for me, is more attractive. And that's to not see it as a civil rights issue and get kind of confused with all that kind of stuff in history, but to see it as, hey, E.F. Hutton has invented a much better mousetrap. And when I give my information to E.F. Hutton, yeah, they're going to take it and sell it to somebody and buy ads for me like everybody else does, but I'm going to get the profit back for whatever profit they make on that, or however they do it. I'm going to be the shareholder that gets the money back on that, and that's a good thing. But it's on the positive side. I feel good about it because I think, participating with it is a positive thing because now I'm getting some return on that investment. But I do see that, this is a better product that's got some appeal because I'm going to win, for it.
We don't think you're going to just suddenly jump ship from Facebook. I think that's unrealistic. I think the realism is that we want to just give you a better product and show you that there's something else out there. And I know other companies want to do that as well, and I wish them all the luck in the world. It's a hard thing to get into. And I should point out something we've missed in some of this conversation. You made a very good point. You said something about they're going to take the data and sell it and do whatever they're going to do with it. We do not allow third-party access to the data. There won't be a Cambridge Analytica. Let's make this absolutely clear. Facebook was not hacked. Cambridge was given that information, whether money changed hands or not. I don't know all the details of it. I'm not going to speak to that. But they weren't hacked. They handed it over. We're not going to do that. So if you're looking for that thing to push you over the line, there you go. Help us get the word out. And I don't mean sell a MegaLife. I mean, tell them about the user issues, the things that they may not understand. We need to educate. And that's part of it. If you know that there's a better alternative, there's cards back there, hand them a MegaLife card, but by all means, help them understand that there is a discrepancy here. And this is not racial, it's not economic, there's no border problem here. This is about education across every ethnicity, across every economic line. You see people who are super wealthy, people who have nothing, but for some reason they're both sitting there on Facebook, right? It's equal when you're out on digital, but it doesn't have to be exploitive. And we can fix that.
Now, where do we go from here?
Excellent.
Where do we really go from here, Attorney Zach and others? Well, it's time to call for a leadership challenge. We need a new social media model. We need a new model where just a few corporate people are not compensated. Well, we want to have one where everyone can share in the American dream. Everyone should have the opportunity for financial transparency. And that's the clarity that we need to bring today. What is that clarity? And I believe E.F. Hutton is trying to move in the area of financial freedom for all, financial security, long-term savings, independent freedom, and everyone will have the opportunity to benefit from equal opportunity. Everyone will be compensated through E.F. Hutton, through megalife.com. And that's where I want to go. That's the clarity.
Excellent. Chilton? Yeah, please. Right ahead.
My final thought is, I like that, take the challenge, get the word out, let people know, make them understand that your information, you're the one who pushed the button, you're the one who gave the information. Until you demand to be compensated, nothing's going to happen.
Nothing changed. I think it's interesting that Martin Luther King, hang on, Zach, we'll get right to you, that Martin Luther King is here because nothing changed in civil rights until people stood up, right? Until that first person sat on that bus or sat at that lunch counter or made some difference somewhere. And it's about every race, every ethnicity, somebody has had to go through this. This is our version. This is the 21st century version. This is when we're going to take it back. We're going to take back the internet that's public, that's free, that's out there. And if people are going to make money off our backs, why shouldn't we get something for it? Why shouldn't we get something for it? Joyce Chilton, Charles Winburn, and Zachary Heck for their participation in our discussion today. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all again.